Something looks familiar about that game, but I just can't put my finger on it. It looks really familiar. Oh, that's the game I know. Golf for the Nintendo Entertainment System. But what was that other game? That game was Golf for the Versus Arcade System for Nintendo. And today I'm going to compare that game to the NES version of Golf and show you what you've been missing if you haven't played the Versus Arcade game. Oh, and stick around to the end. I'll show you something that's never been done in the history of Nintendo Golf gaming.
I can't believe I'm playing golf, huh? Golf. Sounds like you got something stuck in your throat.
Golf. Yeah, that's right. smgolf.zip is the ROM we're going to be looking at. This is the Versus Arcade version of Nintendo Golf, not to be confused with the ladies version of the arcade golf Nintendo. LadyGolf.zip is that ROM, which arguably is the best version of these golf games by Nintendo. But we're not going to talk about ladies golf today. We're just going to focus on the men's version of golf, which was more popular at the time. If you've read about the history of NES Golf, then you may know that Satoru Iwata was challenged with getting an 18-hole golf course on a 24 kilobyte cartridge. Not an easy feat at the time, but that is why you may see some differences in what's on the arcade version versus the NES and what compromises had to be made. Now we're going to be emulating these games because unfortunately I do not own the real arcade version, but we're just going to be using MAME and showing you how these games work. Now the first thing you notice is you hear background music. One common complaint on the NES version was there was no music. Well, in the Versus Arcade version, you will find background music as well as other audio bites during the game. Now, if you're going to emulate this game, be aware the audio is a little staticky and choppy. Just seems they couldn't get the emulation just right on that. But let's take a look at some of the game differences between NES and arcade. And with an arcade, you always had to put quarters in, and when you put a quarter in, you got 16 shots to play with for every quarter that you inserted. Now, 16 total shots doesn't seem fair. It's about 3 or 4 holes. How can you finish the game? Well, when you birdied a hole or eagled, they would give you more shots to use. In this example, a birdie added 2 more shots to use during your round. Oh, and if you were paying attention, you noticed that animation just like that, something not found in NES Golf. Now with any arcade game, there are dip switches that control the features of an arcade game. In this instance, they call your strokes that you get points, and you can turn them off or on. Free play would be off. And you can set how many starting shots you get for each quarter. Default seems to be 16, but you can make it harder or easier. Also, it seems to have 2 settings, easy, where you get more added strokes if you complete birdies or hole-in-ones, as opposed to a hard setting where they give you less shots added and take away shots for bogeys and double bogeys. Now, this game could be very challenging on a 1cc, 1 credit challenge to see if you can get through the whole course in 1 credit. Now, there is also a hole size dip switch setting, which appears to make the cup hole large or small on the putting green, making putting easier, but don't get your hopes up. As I tried this, I didn't see a huge difference in ease of putting by making it large. Now to continue with gameplay differences, here's a big one. They actually give you the yardage to the hole on every shot approaching the green. This is not something done in the NES version, as you have to guess the distance and not be able to use a yardage marker for club selection. The mechanics of each game seem to be identical. The way the ball reacts off the club meter, 3-swing meter, seems to be identical. Maybe putting has a slight difference in the length of putts and the meter, but almost unnoticeable. The one major difference that you'll see in gameplay is take a look at this shot from the Nintendo system As you hit the water, the ball rolls onto the surface. But in the Versus arcade game, if you hit the water anywhere, it goes right into the water. There is no roll after the fact when you hit the water. That's a little NES trick that veteran golfers are all aware of. Another difference between the two games is when you start an arcade game, you may get a different hole each time you play, which is actually pretty good. It gives you variation for your 1/4 when you play the arcade version. Now, what about holes on the Versus arcade game? Are there different holes or any variations? And the answer to that is yes. Take a look at these two similar holes. There are bunkers placed in different locations, and you'll also find trees on various holes placed in different locations. The hole layout is the same on the holes, but you will find minor variations. Now, of all the 18 holes on NES, there is one that is not in the arcade version, and that one is hole number 8. You will not find that one in the arcade version, but what you will find is 4 additional holes that are not in the NES version. One of them is a challenging par 5 that will replace your hole number 8. It has bunkers in the fairway as well as many trees surrounding the fairway and an island green, so to speak, surrounded by trees. Another par 5 is added with a bunch of island plateaus that you have to hit to in order to get to an island green. And then there is another par 4 that has many trees and a green surrounded by water, one of the most challenging holes in the game. And lastly, another par 4 with a green surrounded by bunkers and water in the back. Very challenging. Now, I promised you I would show you something never achieved in history on Nintendo Golf, and here it is. Take a look at me and my friend playing Nintendo Golf live on Twitch, and take a look at what happens.
Straight, the wind's going to carry it right to the hole.
Correct. Just did it straight. Perfect. That's just good. That's as good too. That's as good too.
Now, I know you're saying hole-in-ones is not a big thing, and you're right, but let's take a look at what John does, who's playing as player 2 on this golf game.
Now, can I mimic that?
How close?
If it doesn't, then I'm...
Oh my God!
That's right. 2 hole-in-ones on the same hole by 2 players playing live. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you like the content. Make sure you play these 2 versions, SM Golf and Lady Golf, and I guarantee you will enjoy those games. Hey, thanks for watching.